is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. This could be the last show of the season unless all the games here, or at least, I'd say at least two of the games go to Game 7 here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, like the 4 games here tonight are all Game 6s. So these four series could all be Game 7s on Saturday. What I'm wondering is, like, let's say we get 2 Game 7s. Is there going to be one at like 2 in the afternoon and then one at like 7 or 8 at night? Like, that's what I'm kind of thinking would happen.
I don't know if they do a Game 7. Well, it's the NHL, so I shouldn't say shouldn't. But, yeah. So hopefully we get at least 3, and that way we'll be here on Saturday. As you can see by Cliffy's face, the Habs season has ended. He is leaning into the handlebars. He's got to lean into it, maybe get a motorcycle or something. Everyone piling on the Leafs already. Go Sens, obviously. We're rooting for Game 7 for hilarity purposes in that series. The Sens kind of shored up their penalty kill, which is really important. Obviously, Omar being able to stop a puck has helped. Yeah, he caught me off guard too when I joined in on StreamYard. Now I just look like a homeless old guy, and Cliffy looks good. So, but in my brain, the Rangers are still in it, so I got to keep going. But yeah, helping me to break it down in his RU Shea Weber. I don't know whose jersey that is. What's going on?
Yeah, it's Mike Camilleri, actually. It's a long story behind it. Yeah, it's a long story behind it. Not a whole lot. Yeah. 2 teams bounced last night, one being my Montreal Canadiens. It's funny. Like they lost in 5 games. Honestly, the first 4 games, they won 1 of them. So the other 3 losses, like, it could have gone. Those are games that could have gone to Montreal. Like, one was an overtime loss. And I even talked about it this morning on social media. Like, the game they lost in overtime, Mike Matheson had a clean look from 20 feet with about 25 seconds left in the game. They score that. They win Game 1, get the split, go into Game 5 tied 2-2 or something like that. Like, it's a different series. So those are the very thin margins that exist in the playoffs, especially when you're an underdog like the Habs. But obviously, I can't complain about the season. I thought if they could finish around 80 points, maybe 10th or 11th in the conference, I would have considered that a successful season. To get to the playoffs, win a home game for the fans, all that stuff, all the young players, hard not to be excited. Tampa Bay got bounced. It's something else I mentioned on social media. Like, I think somewhat justifiably, like, there's a narrative around Kucherov, like he didn't perform in the series at all, 0 goals. But what I mentioned was Florida's top line scored 5 goals. Tampa Bay's top line also scored 5 goals. Everybody else on the Panthers scored 14, and everybody else on Tampa Bay scored 7. So the depth from the Florida doubled the goal scoring of the depth from Tampa. That was the difference in the series. Now, Brandon Hagel missed 2 games, one for injury, one because of suspension. They didn't have Oliver Bjorkstrand for the entire series. Like, those things add up. When you're facing a cup contender like Florida, you need all your weapons. They didn't have them. Florida, like, regardless of what happens in that Leafs series, I think Florida is pretty easily the best team in the Eastern Conference. I picked Tampa to win that series, but with the caveat that I picked 7 games, and I thought whoever comes out of that series is going to the Stanley Cup final. Like, I thought the 2 best teams were in that series. So Florida looks really good, man. They are look like they might juggernaut their way to another Stanley Cup final appearance. And then St. Louis, Winnipeg last night, kind of an ugly game. Braden Shen just launches himself like half a foot off the ice into Mark Scheifele, and they're like, "Not clean hit." It's like, Listen, man, I love huge hits. I love fights. I love all that stuff. We have to be reasonable about what some of these hits are, because that's honestly, it's one of those, like, if you think that's a clean hit, I don't know what to tell you. But anyways, Winnipeg's depth managed to pull it out. I mean, Kyle Connor had a 3-point night. He played pretty well. Hellebuck still didn't look good. The offense won them that game. It wasn't Hellebuck. But they do have the series lead now. We'll see what they do in Game 6 on Friday night. But 4 games here tonight. All 4 teams can go home. 4 teams can force a Game 7. Pretty wild slate. We do have some line changes. We have one key injury in the Vegas game that we'll talk about. Players not returning, that type of thing. So there's some news to go through. We'll make sure to go through these games with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, that Shen hit was not clean, but I wonder, because the Department of Player Safety is so erratic. I wonder if they take Scheifele's history into consideration, because he's done some real dirty stuff. So
that's why when Ekblad got the 2-game suspension and Mikla only got a fine, I was like, I think what happened there was that instead of giving them each 1 game, they just gave Ekblad 2 games. Or Mikla, you can play. So I don't have any faith in them. I don't know why anybody would, but players got to play through it. Everybody's playing by the same rules, kind of. Let's see how tonight goes.
Yeah, I know the Ekblad hit was really bad because Hagel got hurt, but the Mikla hit was so much more dangerous.
It's one of those things where a little too much force in the wrong spot, he snaps his neck in 2. Yeah. I don't know how they can't say that that's not a suspendable hit, but it's neither here nor there. I'm sure we'll be talking about more suspendable hits in the Florida, Toronto, or Ottawa series to come up next.
Yeah, we should get into this slate, talk about some hockey other than the ineptitude of the NHL and its departments. First up, we have Toronto. They're heading into Ottawa for Game 6. I'm not sure a lot of Leafs fans thought they'd be here after going up 3-0 in this series.
I don't know. Given the history, maybe they're like, this might go at least 6.
It's so funny because after Game 3, you saw the tone of the Leafs fans. They're like, oh, yeah, Berube's it. And then I was scouring Twitter after Game 5, and they're like, Matthews is broken. And it's my favorite thing about playoff hockey. I'm sorry if you're a Leafs fan. I don't dislike you. It's just, it is so good watching the Leafs fans melt down. But they're in Ottawa for Game 6. You definitely don't want to go full 2004 Yankees. That's just a mess. But new second line and third line for the Leafs. Top line remains the same. Matthews, Marner, Nyes. Now Pacioretty's with Tavares and Nylander, and Holmberg's down on the third line with Domi, McMahon. Ottawa's going Kachuk, Stützle, Giroux. Batherson, Cousins, Perron. Pinto, Grieg, Amadio. Man, I didn't realize until I was watching Game 5 how big Matty Nyes is, because he absolutely leveled Shane Pinto, and Pinto is a large mammal. So, Matty Nyes is a unit, but anyway, he's still overpriced. Here's the thing. In the regular season, Tavares and Nylander, their best minutes came with Max Pacioretty, and that was early on in the season. They played well with McMahon. There was a couple of Leafs fans in our Discord asking, or hoping McMahon would move up, and that I don't mind. But if Pacioretty is healthy, that was arguably their best line of the season. So I have no issue going to that line, if I'm Craig Berube. You know what I mean? So no one's 100% at this point, but if Pacioretty can play, that makes a lot of sense, because the second and third lines of the Leafs so far this series have not been creating a damn thing at 5-on-5. So moving Pacioretty up and moving Holmberg off, Holmberg is a guy who you want on your fourth line, like if it's a checking line or something like that. You don't want him in your top six with Tavares and Nylander. Pacioretty is much more offensive-minded. I do really like that line. It makes the second line much more in play because normally we're like, focus on the power play guys and move on. If Pacioretty can kind of recreate how he played in October and November with Tavares and Nylander, that could be a very dangerous line. It doesn't really change the analysis too much, but it does put like a full second line stack into play. I'm still focusing on the power play guys because while the Leafs haven't been great at 5-on-5, they've been very good on the power play. So again, like Nylander, Matthews, Tavares are the guys I'm focusing on. You want to add in Marner, you want to add in Nyes, that's fine. If you don't have the salary to add in a Matthews or Marner or Nyes or something like that, I think leaving Pacioretty is fine. Like that's the difference between him and Holmberg. I think you can full stack that second line to save some money off that top line's price. You still get Tavares and Nylander on the power play. So, again, it's the Toronto power play guys. But I'm more likely to full stack the second line than the top line for the savings now that Pacioretty is there. On the Ottawa side, it's again, it's the power play guys. Like I know we sound like a broken record, but we've seen through 5 games in the series, it doesn't matter what city they're in. It matters. It's been a special team series. So like Stützle and Tkachuk have actually produced on the power play. I think I'm more likely to go to that line than the second line. I think, go Stützle, Tkachuk, add in a Batherson, add in the Cousins, something like that. If you want to do the inverse and go Cousins, Batherson, and go Tkachuk to save a little bit of money because Timmy Stu is a little bit more expensive, that's fine. But for me, I prefer the Ottawa top line. It's another one of those lines. If like you want to leave Giroux there, I think it's fine, but I prefer getting as many power play guys in as I can. And if you are going depth, I think now that Holmberg's on the third line for Toronto, I prefer the Grieg, Pinto, Amadio line if I need a couple guys for cheap in this game.
Yeah. Just to kind of put a little bit of a point on it, you were mentioning how this is a series about special teams. It's something that we've talked about, every show thus far. 10 out of the 29 goals have been scored on the power play or penalty kill between the two teams. So over a third of the goals. Just to put that into perspective, think of all the power play goals Detroit scored in the regular season. They led the league. Remember, seems like forever ago, but they couldn't stop scoring on the power play. Now they struggle a little bit at 5-on-5. With all the power play goals they scored, they still only scored 29% of all their goals this season, power play and penalty kill, on special teams. So these two teams are getting a higher share of the goals from special teams than the Detroit Red Wings, who were entirely power play dependent. That's why, you say we sound like broken records, and we do, but that's because that's what's happening in this series. It's what we expected to happen. Both teams have good power plays. Toronto's is better, but Ottawa's is good. Toronto's is great. Both have bad penalty kills. That's pretty much borne out in this series. So I don't mind going to Toronto 1. Here's the thing is if this game is happening December 15th, I'd be on a 4-game slate. I'd be pretty tempted to load up Toronto 1. However, this game is happening in May, and I've been watching this Toronto team play in the playoffs for the last 10 years now. And I keep thinking in the back of my head, man, these guys can't stop choking. So I'm like, I'm not really sure. The Toronto top line, 60 minutes together at 5-on-5 in the playoffs, 47 shot attempts per 60 minutes.
Awful.
They're scoring because they're shooting 18%. They're not scoring because they're really generating much offensively. You have to give Ottawa credit in that sense. Now, the caveat there is obviously that line is good enough to shred anybody apart at any given moment. So I do feel a little bit of FOMO not playing that line. But we have 4 lines on the board here tonight that are over 20K. It's not like you have to make a big decision about Toronto 1 at 21,600 or dip down to a pair of $16,000 lines. Like, there are other options. And this, out of the 4 lines priced over 20K, the Leafs are 4th by top 2 stack percentage. We'll get to Colorado, Minnesota, and Edmonton, but they're all ahead. So honestly, I feel like I kind of agree with you. I think that I feel like Toronto 2 is probably where I would go here. Like, you mentioned how good they were in the regular season. Toronto's top scoring line at 5-on-5 in the regular season was McMahon, Tavares, Nylander at 4.2 goals per 60 minutes. The next highest scoring line for Toronto was Pacioretty, Tavares, Nylander at 3.8 goals per 60 minutes. Like, Tavares, Nylander plus either McMahon or Pacioretty equals a lot of goals, or at least it did it, in the regular season. So at 16,900, I feel like if you do want to play a couple mid-price stacks because you want to fit in, a Cale Makar or an Evan Bouchard or something like that on defense, I feel like Toronto 2 is just fine. I'm not really that worried about the depth 5-on-5 matchups. Like, they're not, you're not going to see the Sanderson pair very much. So you're going to get the second and third pairs from Ottawa. You're going to get the Cousins line every now and then, like that type of thing. So I think I'm in with you on Toronto 2. On the Ottawa side, so they're going to use Amadio as the shutdown line, which is kind of interesting to me because that line's getting a lot of minutes. If you go by ice time, that Grieg, Amadio, Pinto line is their second line. And some of their ice time comes shorthanded, and none of them are on the power play. That's what sucks. But they do get a lot of ice time. And at 10,500, they're priced at filler price status. So, like, if you want to play Colorado 1 with a reasonably expensive defenseman or something like that, or you want to play Minnesota, or you want to play Edmonton, like, I do think Ottawa 3 is in play just because Grieg might play 19 minutes, Pinto around 20, even Amadio might play 15 or 16 or something like that. So, like, they're getting good ice time at 10,500. If they get a goal and an assist with 3 shots or something like that, like, you're kind of fine, especially on a short slate like this. So I don't mind Ottawa 3. It's the Ottawa power play guys. Otherwise, the 4 power play guys, Tkachuk, Stützle, Cousins, Batherson, however you want to stack them. But I honestly think Toronto 2 is my favorite line in this game.
Yeah. And talk about Toronto choking. Since we started doing shows in 2020, the Leafs have won 1 game past the first round in the playoffs. So story checks out. We have the Vegas Golden Knights heading into Minnesota for Game 6. Vegas is up 3-2 in that series. It's honestly been a really good series. Kaprizov made a really awful mistake on the power play in the last game. That's kind of why you don't go 5 forward power plays if you're not used to it. But then he came back 13 seconds later and scored a nasty goal. But yeah, injury news for Vegas. Pavel Dorofeyev is out, so their new lines are going to be Eichel, Stone, Carlson, and then Hurdle, Saad, Olofsson, and then Olofsson's taking Dorofeyev's spot on the power play. Third line is Roy, Smith, and Barbashev. Minnesota going back to Kaprizov, Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, Zuccarello, Hartman, Johansson, Foligno, Gaudreau, Nyquist.
I will just say, just real quick, Minnesota had an optional skate today, and only about half the guys skated. We don't know for 100% sure what their lineup is going to be. We're going to assume it's the same. I don't think the top line's breaking up. I think if anything gets broken up, it's the second, third, or fourth lines. But just something to be aware of if you're playing Minnesota, that something might change at warm-up compared to what we have now. Just because they had an optional skate, they didn't have a full morning skate.
That's one of my favorite things about fan bases, because they get so mad after a loss when guys aren't on the ice for optional skate. It doesn't mean they're home playing PlayStation. They're in the building. Yeah, they're doing video. They're getting massage therapy. They're doing something. They're not. That would be fine. Not taking today off, coach. Yeah. Optional. Yeah, I'm just going to stay home, play some COD until game time. They're in the building. Like, a lot of people don't know that. So I find that funny. But Man, Minnesota really wants that overtime back, I think, or the end of the game back. They can do that by winning here tonight. Dorofeyev out for Vegas is pretty significant because you move Olofsson up into the top 6 and on the top power play. I'm not sure it hurts their power play tremendously. I think it's going to hurt them at 5-on-5 because Olofsson not the best 5-on-5 player. He's kind of a glorified shot bot. Stone with Eichel and Karlsson does pique my interest a little bit, considering now that Eichel and Stone have been getting pumped heavy minutes. So I don't mind that line with Karlsson there because, like, those are the 3 guys you're going to play heavy minutes along with Hurdle. So I don't mind Vegas 1 here. Vegas 2, it's interesting because you do get Olofsson on the power play, Hurdle's on the power play. Like, they're fine at 14-3, or they're not 14-3. They're cheaper than that. Like, they're kind of a filler, which kind of puts it into a little bit of play for me. I just, with a chance to close out the series and Eichel and Stone playing heavy minutes at whatever their price, I think it's like 18 and change or something like that. With these guys playing super heavy minutes, like, I think I'd go to Vegas 1 here. On the Minnesota side, like, Hartman and Zuccarello and Johansson have played decent minutes at 12-2, so that kind of puts them in play. But really, like, the Minnesota middle 6 has not been great. So really, it's just like either you want a full stack Minnesota 1 or you leave off Eriksson Ek or something like that and do a 2-man of Kaprizov, Boldy. We don't know if Zeev is going to be back in the lineup. They went to a 5-forward power play. It, like, outside of the Leafs, they're the only case study where that's been successful. Everyone else who's tried it, it hasn't been great. So I'm more likely to get to Minnesota 1 full stack if they have a power play quarterback. If Zeev is out, I think, 1 off Kaprizov, fine. 2-man with Boldy, fine. I don't know if I'd full stack. And, like, a 1 off Zuccarello or 2-man with Hartman's fine for cheap salary. But at that point, like, I'd rather go to Ottawa 3 just because they play heavier minutes. But my favorite line in this game is Vegas 1 because of the minutes and the price. But I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty tight checking, low-scoring game.
Yeah. With that new top line for Vegas is 16-7. And, like, this is another thing where I'm trying to imagine, like, this is a game in the middle of January, and I can get Eichel, Stone, and William Karlsson for 16,700. And I know that at the low end, Karlsson's going to play 18, 19 minutes. Stone and Eichel are going to play 20 plus. Like, that's pretty tempting. And it is not a great matchup against Minnesota 1, but, Minnesota 1, like, they 2 expected goals against per 60 in the playoffs so far. Like, that's pretty good, but considering teams have tightened things up at 5-on-5, it's not that much better than the league average. So, like, they've been good, but not elite. Certainly Eichel, Stone, and Karlsson are good enough to kind of go through them. And I looked at Eichel and Karlsson. They don't have much time together over the last couple of years. Like, they almost never play together. In the very limited sample they have, 30 minutes. Shot attempts are 39-18 for Vegas. Expected goals are 1.1 to 0.4 for Vegas. Like, William Karlsson, I know we throw the term around a lot. I think William Karlsson's legit one of, like, the 5 most underrated players in the NHL. It's because he's stuck on the third line behind Eichel and Hurdle that he doesn't get a lot of recognition. But on, like, a half dozen teams, he'd be the number 1 center, and in half the league, he'd be, like, he's a high-end number 2 center pretty much. So, like, I think that's a really good line. And at 16,700, I don't know, man. That's pretty tempting. Minnesota's penalty kill generally struggled through the season. Now Vegas isn't drawing a ton of power plays, 2.8 per game so far in the series. It's fine. It's not great or anything, but like I'm kind of tempted with Vegas 1. I think Vegas 2 is in play with Hurdle, Saad, and Olofsson, just because you get Hurdle and Olofsson on the power play at 12,200. They're a filler, so you can go ahead and play them with Colorado or something like that pretty easily. So I don't mind Vegas 2. I think I kind of like Vegas 1, and it's a price thing. It's like if these guys are 19,100, I probably don't even consider them. But at 16,000, it's kind of like Ottawa the other night, right? With Kachuk and Stützle and Giroux. It's like, not big fans of the line, but 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit, they're going to play 18 to 20 minutes, 18 to 21 minutes. At 16,700, like it's kind of hard to pass up. And I feel the same way about Vegas 1 here tonight. Minnesota 1 is probably the second best line on the board. I'd say no worse than the third, considering the matchup and everything. Vegas has been pretty good defensively. I think that's something that we do have to take into consideration in this game. Vegas is at 2.2 expected goals against per 60 minutes so far in the playoffs. I think that's 6th or 7th. So like they've been pretty good defensively at 5-on-5. They're not taking a lot of penalties either. So like they didn't take any during the regular season, one of the least penalized teams in the league. Yeah, here in the playoffs, Minnesota's only getting 2.2 power plays per game. So it's not really a great matchup for Minnesota. Now Vegas's penalty kill can struggle at times. I don't mind Minnesota 1, but I think considering the preponderance of 20K plus lines, like I would order them Toronto 4 and Minnesota 3 out of those 4 lines that are 20K and above. So we'll get to the other 2 in the later games. I don't mind Minnesota. They're not one of my targets for those expensive lines. So I think this is another game where I'd look to the Minnesota depth, like a Hartman, Zuccarello 2-man. Like Hartman is on the power play if they go with a 5-forward power play. So you get 2 out of the 3 guys on the power play. They're 12,200 as well. So they're a filler stack. Hartman's playing 18, 19 minutes a game, or 17, 18 minutes a game. Zuccarello's a little bit higher than that. I think this is a game where I prefer the Vegas side. I mean, they are favored. They have the highest total, et cetera, but 16,700 is hard to pass up for that top line. I also don't mind Minnesota 2 here. Hartman and Zuccarello so far in the playoffs, 2.4 expected goals for. Not great, but a little bit better than league average. So it's hard to complain, especially when you get a ton of ice time and 2 out of the 3 guys on top power play unit. So my favorite line is Vegas 1, but I don't mind Vegas 2 as a filler here.
Yeah. William Karlsson, he was on the 4th line for Columbus when Vegas took him in the expansion draft, and he had like an 80-point season as their top line.
The very next season he had like 42 goals or something like that.
Yeah. Is Frost back here? He's drafted by the Ducks. They blew that. Anyway.
Speaking of the expansion draft.
Colorado. No. Dallas going into Colorado to try to close out the Avs. That's the most surprising statement of the playoffs so far, I think. Cliffy alluded to McCarr just playing like a bag of ass. He said it more eloquently than I did, but he's been bad. He acknowledged it and needs to play better. He's probably playing on like one leg, but we don't know. Colorado's going McKinnon, Netchus, Lehkonen, Nichushkin, Nelson, Landeskog. Nichushkin hasn't been played well either. He's been pretty bad in the series as well. Drury, O'Connor, Kelly, Drouin, Coyle, Kiviranta. Dallas going McKinnon, Hintz, Granlund, Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment, Johnston, Ben, Dodonov. Miro Heiskanen still out. Robertson didn't even travel. Like we saw in Game 4, Colorado just came out and just dominated the game. They're going to have to do that again if they want to extend this to 7 games. I think on their home ice, they are very capable of doing it. I of the expensive lines, the 20K and above, it's no surprise the Colorado one is my favorite. Little surprised McKinnon wasn't a finalist for the Hart, but the NHL individual awards are kind of like whose line is it anyway? The points are made up and it doesn't really matter. But again, like I do really, really like Colorado 1. Colorado 2, like not so much. Like they're fine. Like Landeskog's on the top power play unit, so if you want to add him in for cheap, that's fine. But like Nishushkin's been pretty bad in the series. Nelson hasn't seemed comfortable. He's on the Casey Middlestat trajectory since he got to Colorado. Like for whatever reason, it's just hard to play the center position behind McKinnon unless your name is Nazem Kadri. So like I don't particularly love Colorado 2. I think adding in Landeskog or one-offing Landeskog makes some sense, but it is a Colorado 1 game for me. On the Dallas side, like I'm just going back to Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment, 12,700. They're coming in, negatively leveraged, but they're 12,700, and it's a 4-game slate. Like if you want to go to that Hintz line, fine. At 15.8, but like at that point for a couple $100 more, I'd probably just go to Vegas 1. So like I'm in on Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment. You want to one-off Wyatt Johnston, you want to one-off, Granlund, something like that, fine. But for me, it's Colorado 1, Colorado power play, and that Dallas second line.
Yeah, so here we are once again staring down Colorado 1. A perfectly correlated Colorado 1, by the way. And, they do have the highest top 2 stack on the night. And honestly, it's not that close. Like they're over 33%. The Minnesota top line is the next closest. They're down at 25%. So, Colorado is, quote, the best play on the board. Now, it's been kind of a weird series just because I do think, Dallas is playing fairly well defensively. Like you do, kind of have to give it up for how well Dallas has kind of held them off. Now, I do think part of it is Jake Ottinger. Jake Ottinger has certainly played extremely well this series. I think that's kind of been underrepresented so far in the first 5 games. But the other thing is I talked about it before the playoffs started, how both teams were teams that kind of give it up defensively, give up high danger passes defensively quite a bit in the regular season. Colorado's been okay, but it's actually down from the regular season. Their high danger passes at 5-on-5. And the worst part is that they're basically all Nathan McKinnon. I was looking at some of the tracking data. In the first 3 games of the series, they had 5 high danger passes at 5-on-5, and McKinnon had 4 of them. So like the rest of the lines really aren't generating anything dangerous. And when your team plays like that, and then suddenly you have to shift to more of a forechecking grinding style in the playoffs, I can see why maybe things look a little bit out of sync. But, by the same token, this Colorado top line so far in the playoffs, 98 shot attempts, 4.8 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. It's preposterous. They're scoring 2.4 goals per 60 at 5-on-5, which is a little bit above the league average for the playoffs, and they're shooting under 6%. Okay. So like if this line ever gets some positive shooting regression, they're going to fill the net. So that's why like I do have a little bit of interest in Colorado 1, and they're going to go out against Hintz and Rantanen. Hintz and Rantanen so far in the playoffs, 76 shot attempts and 4 expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. Like when I said Ottinger's playing well, he is really saving this team, especially at 5-on-5. He can keep doing it. We saw him do it a few years ago against Calgary, right? Where he basically won them the series. So it can be done. But listen, man, if I can get a line that's creating almost 5 expected goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, that's perfectly correlated on the power play and is drawing 3.4 power plays per game, which is pretty high, you kind of like those chances. So I really do like Colorado 1 here. Even like, if you want to play Colorado 2, I think that's fine. Like Gabriel Landeskog certainly has looked pretty good. They're 14,400. And like, Vegas 2 is like $1,700 cheaper or something like that. The Toronto second line is only about $2,000 more expensive. So like there are other options around that price range that you can go to for second line. So like I'm not super high on them. I don't usually shout out fourth lines, but Colorado 4, Drury, O'Connor, Parker, Kelly, 8,600. Now, you're only playing them if you're playing Edmonton power play, Toronto power play, like those types of things. But they were fairly good in the regular season. At least they weren't getting outplayed. And so far in the playoffs, 66 shot attempts, 3 expected goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 for O'Connor and Drury. So they've been pretty good at 5-on-5. They haven't had the bounces yet. I wouldn't expect them to. They're not high skill players. But this can be like a league average scoring line as a fourth line. So like a two-man of like Drury and O'Connor or something like that. If you do want to fit in all those expensive lines elsewhere on the slate or expensive power play stacks or whatever, I think that's fine. They're getting decent minutes as well. Like, 12 to 14 minutes. It's not great, obviously, but for a fourth line, that's actually not bad considering the LA Kings pretend they don't even have 3 guys on the fourth line. So I don't mind like a Kelly or, like a Kelly, Drury, two-man, O'Connor, Drury, two-man, something like that if you want to fit in the expensive guys, but it's Colorado 1. On the Dallas side, like normally I would say I'm in on Dallas 2, but Dallas 2, their projected ownership is over 3 times higher than their top 2 stack. At a certain point, I just got to be like, that's too much for me. And quite honestly, the depth pairs from Colorado have been playing better than the McCarthy's pairs. So like, based on how the first 5 games have gone, like they're in the worst matchup. So I think this is a case where I'd be kind of tempted with Dallas 1. Rantanen, Hintz, Granlund, like they are leaky defensively, but they are at 63 shot attempts and 3.1 expected goals per 60 so far in the playoffs. They're generating well offensively. You get 2 or 3 guys on the top power play unit. This isn't a case of where they're 19,800 or whatever they were during the regular season. Like they are priced much more reasonably. I think this is a game where my interest lies with both top lines, but I also don't mind a couple guys from Colorado 4 if you want to fit in expensive lines elsewhere.
Yeah. Got the LA Kings, right? Yes. They are heading into Edmonton for Game 6. They need a win to stay alive after going up 2-0 in the series. Edmonton is Edmontoning. Like they're just, running people over on the power play at 5-on-5, just kind of what they're doing. They're going back to McDavid, Draisaitl, Perry, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Kane, Henrique, Frederick Brown. Not even sure why I read that, to be honest with you. Kings are going Fiala, Byfield, Laferriere, Kempe, Kuzmenko, Kopitar, Fogle, Moore, Deneau. That top line for Edmonton is fully correlated and 20,300. There's nothing more to that other than that sentence. Like that's really all you need to know. They're fully correlated. They're 20,300. They're cheaper than Colorado 1. They're cheaper than Toronto 1. And they have created – Edmonton is leading the NHL in the playoffs for high danger chances at 5-on-5. Their power play is alive and well. So I'm very much in on Edmonton 1 here. You want to add Ryan Nugent-Hopkins into that for power play? Cool. But, really, it's just Edmonton top line. The Kings need a win to stay alive here. Fiala, Byfield, Laferriere is 15,000, coming in at 15% projected ownership. They're fine. Kempe, Kuzmenko, Kopitar, 4.1% projected ownership. They're a little expensive at 17.5, but at that ownership and their power play actually doing some stuff, I don't mind going to that top line. Obviously, I have no issue with Fiala, Byfield, Laferriere. But if you're going to give me the Kempe, Kuzmenko, Kopitar line at a third of the ownership, I'm interested. As much as a good player as Kevin Fiala and Quentin Byfield is, their best winger is Adrian Kempe. I will die on that hill. So, like, I want the best players and the best in the big games. That's Kempe. Like, a one-off Kempe is fine if you don't want to go to LA1. You want to leave off LaFerriere and add in Kempe to a LA2 stack? Sure. You need a mid-price line. I don't mind LA3, but at 14% projected, I'd probably just go to Vegas 2 or something like that. So, like, if you throw ownership into the mix, I think the top line for the Kings is my favorite. Ownership agnostic. It's the Fiala line, but if I'm going to play Kings, I want to find a way to get Kempe in my lineup.
Yeah, for all the consternation about the Oilers to start the playoffs, the problems are the goaltending, right? Like, we'll say defensive issues. The problem hasn't been the offense. The Oilers lead the NHL in shots on goal per minute, and honestly, it's not even close. They're like 2.5 shots higher per 60 minutes than the next closest team, which is Carolina. They lead the NHL in goals per 60 minutes. They lead the NHL in expected goals per 60 minutes. This has been the best offensive team in the playoffs thus far. Now they're at home. It's not like matchups really matter. Just because the top line plays so much, they go out against everybody. So it's not like they're hard matching against Kopitar or something like that. It's basically like if they feel McDavid and Draisaitl are rested enough, they're going on the ice regardless of who's on the ice for the Kings. That Edmonton top line with Corey Perry, I looked at their numbers in the regular season plus playoffs, which gives us about a 95-minute sample, a little over 95 minutes. 84 shot attempts, 4.1 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Only 3.1 goals per 60 minutes, which is about 30% better than the league average, despite shooting 6.5%. Like, these guys, regular season and playoffs, whenever they found some time together, have been absolute dynamite at 5-on-5. That's why I'm kind of tempted to, like, if I know they don't have, like, Colorado has the higher top 2 stack tonight. I think deservedly so. I'm going to be honest, just based off the way the playoffs have gone and watching the games and looking at the numbers and the matchups and et cetera, I kind of like Edmonton 1 the best. They don't have the highest top 2 stack. I'll bring it up. It's Colorado, then Minnesota, and then Edmonton. Edmonton just behind Minnesota. They are a little bit cheaper. But, man, like, the offense has looked great. The problems have been defensively, and I don't care about defense in DFS. I just want goals and assists and shots. And if I can get a team that's leading in shots, that's leading in goals, that's coming in under 15% owned for a perfectly correlated top line, it's pretty tough to turn away from Edmonton here. So I really do like Edmonton 1. Honestly, if you want to dip down to Edmonton 2, I don't hate it. Hyman, Nugent, Hopkins, Kane. The problem is at 14,300, they're not quite filler status. Like, they're not like an $11,000, $12,000 line. They're priced in the same price range as like that Colorado second line we talked about earlier. The Dallas top line's only like $1,000 or $1,500 more expensive. All the depth Dallas lines are cheaper. So, like, I just think there are other spots I'd rather go to, and I'm certainly not going that much further down the Edmonton lineup. So I think this is an Edmonton 1 or bust game for me. On the Kings side, like, they do have 3 playable lines. Kempe, Kuzmenko, Kopitar, their price has gone down from the last game. I didn't mind them at their price in the last game just because they're getting so many minutes, which they are. Like, that top line at the low end, Kuzmenko will play 17, 18. At the high end, Kopitar and Kempe are going to be 20 plus because they're only playing 3 lines. At 4% ownership, I think that's very playable. I honestly don't mind Fiala, Byfield, Lafreniere just because they are 15K. They have played well so far in the series. They're scoring goals. They're at 3 goals per 60, 72 shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-5. So they're creating offensively. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. Fiala and Byfield might end up 1-2 in ice time for the Kings here tonight, at least amongst their forwards. And they are cheap enough where you can fit them in with another, like a Vegas 1 or a Toronto 2 or a Dallas 1 or something like that if you want. So honestly, don't mind Kings 2 either. But I think for me, this is a game about both top lines. But man, I really do like Edmonton way more here. Like I said, their defense and their goaltending have been suspect. I'm not arguing that. What I am saying is that this has been the best offensive team in the playoffs thus far. They have been. I like the Oilers.
I agree. I was just scrolling Twitter. Rangers haven't announced it yet, but it says it's trending towards Mike Sullivan being their next head coach. He was an assistant for the Rangers under John Tortorella, so pour one out for the homies on the power play. But, it could have been worse. Let's talk about defensemen. Kel McCarr, $8K. Next most expensive guy is Evan Bouchard, $6,500. Then you have Sanderson at $5,500. And then you have Harley and Theodore, the only guys under $5,500 and above $5K. Like, Cal McCarr's been really bad in this series. If Colorado's going to win here tonight, he's going to have to be involved. If you want to go back to him at 8K, I think a lot of people will see his game log and his price and kind of get scared away. I think that's why he makes a great GPP play here tonight. Can fall flat on his face and he has another bad game? Sure, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. Otherwise, I'm going to Bouchard as my number 2. Obviously, Sanderson just plays so much. He didn't have a great DFS game per se. No, he only had 2 blocks and no shots and no points in the last game, but he's been playing easily 25 minutes plus. He's on the top power play. I don't mind him at the 3 spot. Harley's just been great in this series. He's been playing a ton of minutes. So really, I'm good with every single option, 5K or above. Shea Theodore being my least favorite. But, if I'm spending up and I can't get to McCarr, it would be Bouchard 1, Sanderson 2.
Yeah, I mean, we have been fairly hard on McCarr here. Should note so far in the playoffs that Colorado's shooting 5.4% with him on the ice. That's at all strengths, so including the power play. During the regular season, they shot 12.8%. Last year, they shot 13.1%. So, you know what I mean? He's not playing well, but there's definitely a little bit of bad luck going on. And I think he's second amongst playoff defensemen in shots on goal. Bouchard is the only guy that's higher. And if you look at projections, McCarr is projected for 4 more DK points than Bouchard is. So that gives him a much better point per dollar value. I do like McCarr here tonight. Trust me, I've watched those games. I understand if people don't want to play him, but you kind of got to believe in the talent. And like I said, they've been getting unlucky with him on the ice, scoring wise, and he's still shooting a lot. He's averaging almost 4 shots a game regardless. So I do like McCarr here, mid price range. Now we know Haskinen's out. I love Harley again. Jake Sanderson certainly in play. Jake Wallman also in play here for me. The thing with Wallman is I know he's not getting power play time, but I think he's averaging over 2 shots and over 2 block shots per game so far in the series. Now he hasn't hit the shot bonus yet. He's hit the block bonus 2 or 3 times, but he's putting up a lot of peripherals. And, as long as he keeps getting around 21 minutes, I think he's just fine. I'll mention Devin Taves. If you don't want to pay up for McCarr, I think paying down for Devin Taves is fine. Unless Ottinger really holds the fort, I do feel like Colorado's probably going to get some goals here tonight, so I don't mind Taves going down. Vladislav Gavrikov, Jonas Brodin, he's playing heavy minutes for Minnesota. Jake Middleton as well. I don't know if anybody's been looking at the game logs. Jake Middleton in 5 playoff games, block shots 2, 2, 3, 7, 5. It's the guy's blocked. I think it's 19 or 20 shots. 19 shots in those 5 games. So I definitely live for a block bonus. So I don't mind Jake Middleton either. Brett Kulak getting a good ice time. So is Braden McNabb. Under 3K, I think the 3 guys are Lindgren, Zub, or Lyubushkin. That would be the order I would play them, Lindgren, Zub, and Lyubushkin.
Yeah. I played Middleton the other night, He's been 32 and 3,300 in the first 5 games of the series. Now he's all the way up to 3,400. He is the Josh Doan inverse on the blue line. Let's talk about goalies. Do we have to? Yes. Do I want to? No. Did they say? I mean, Gustafson is probably playing tonight. They said he was.
They didn't confirm. I think one of the beat writers said something like it would be surprising if it's not Gustafson, and I agree. Like these games, nothing's on Gustafson, so I don't know why they would sit him.
Yeah, unless he's like physically unable to go, he's going to start. Honestly, I think my favorite play here is Mackenzie Blackwood, and that feels like a cop-out because he's just the most expensive. But, like, Colorado at home, just, like, I feel like this series is going 7. It's more of a feel thing than a projection thing. I don't know. I like Blackwood here tonight. Stellars, I think, is fine at 7,600. Like, I know Ottawa only, like, the thing with Stellars is, like, shot volume's a bit concerned. So if he doesn't win, I don't think he's going to pay off tremendously. Like, the most shots Ottawa has put on net this series was in game 1, and it was 33, and it's gone down every game since. But I don't mind it. Like, Ullmark, I guess, is fine. Like, if he's going to have a good game if you think Ottawa's going to win. I don't particularly love playing Picard, but again, like, these home teams, you know, Picard can close out the series, and the Kings coached. As I disconnect for a second there, like, I don't particularly love any goalie here. I think for me, I'd go Blackwood 1, Gustafson 2, and then Stellars 3. But I don't really love anybody here tonight.
Yeah, I don't really love anybody either. That's why, like, I'm just going to be like a projection slut and just be like, Stellars has the second highest projection just behind Blackwood, but he's $400 cheaper, so he has the best point per dollar value. Like, that's just kind of it. But it's the same thing as, like, playing Toronto 1. All I can think of in the back of my head is I've watched this Leafs team just completely choke in the playoffs for 10 years now. So, like, I really want to play Stellars, but yeah, he's my number 1. I have Hill number 2 just because I do think Vegas is the better team. Missing Dorofeyev kind of hurts, but you know, as long as they can kind of keep that top line in check, I think Hill will be just fine. I have Blackwood 3. What I worry about is that Dallas usually doesn't put up a ton of shot volume, right? They're more of set up quality shots type team. You know, things haven't been that bad in the playoffs. I think they're 4th or 5th in shots per minute. So I think Blackwood's definitely playable. So I go Stellars, Hill, Blackwood. If I needed a cheap goalie, I think it's Gustafson, because it's one of those things where, like, if Minnesota pushes this to game 7, I don't think this is a 6-4 game. I think it's like a 3-1 or 4-2 game, and Gustafson has a good one.
It's pretty funny because, like, push comes to shove, Stellars has probably been their best player in this series.
Yeah, not going to argue that.
Own Anthony Stellars, but go Sens go. Who you like? Oh, this could be our last show, so if it is, just wanted to extend a thank you to everyone who's hung out with us all season long. You guys have been unbelievable. Just, you know, your banter in the chats, helping us out through the affiliate links, this and that. I don't want to speak for Cliffy, but I'm going to speak for Cliffy, is what I always say. We truly do appreciate it. You guys have been amazing. You're the reason we are here as often as we are. If we happen to get 2 or 3 game 7s and the schedule works out, we will be here on Saturday, but don't want to risk not saying thank you if we're not going to be here on Saturday. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Josh said, like, if the schedule works out, like, if we do have like a 3-game Saturday night slate, like, or, you know, something like that, you know, a game of 7, 7:30 and 10:30 or 10 or whatever Eastern, I could imagine we'll be back, but we'll have to see how tonight goes. So I agree. We should probably say our thank yous. Like, the NHL season can get long. Our first show was almost 7 months ago, but I'm always thankful to be able to do these. Like, believe me, I've worked a bunch of different jobs. I've worked, manual labor, certainly worked like fish markets, restaurants, worked in offices. After university, I really would not want to go back to that. I prefer doing this. This is, I really do enjoy doing these shows and preparing for each slate. Trust me, when you hit those 1 month, 2 month losing DFS streaks, it can kind of wear on you. But we never take it for granted that we get to do this year after year. So thank you very much to everybody that supports us, anybody that signs up through the affiliate links. Anybody that shares our videos or participates in the chat, everything certainly helps. Really do appreciate the support everybody has shown us all season. If we are not back Saturday, can't thank you guys enough, and have a great summer, but we'll see how tonight goes first.
Yeah. As Great A Fantasy says, one more show will happen. The Leafs will make it happen. You're goddamn right. But
it's not a bad bet.
It's definitely within the realm of possibilities. Who you liking for your hat trick pick, and why is it everyone on the Sens?
Yeah, I just stayed away from that game entirely. I'm going to go with the team that I think does close it out here tonight. I'm going to go. He's finally going to step up in the series. I'm going to go with Jack Eichel.
I'm gonna have to end the season on a spicy note, like I always do. If this player ends this team's season, heads are going to roll in the front office. I'm going Corey Perry.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, heads should roll in the Kings front office anyway, but Corey Perry putting the nail in that coffin would certainly make it happen. But yeah, good luck, everybody. There's a chance we'll see a movies podcast in the summer. I don't know. But good luck tonight, everybody.
Yeah, good luck tonight, everybody. Enjoy the games.